Spectrum of Us podcast.
Chaos and comedy, where we explore life on the spectrum.
I'm Kevin.
And I'm Jennifer.
In each episode, we dive deep into life surrounding neurodivergence, exploring the complex and often comical dynamics between society, family, education, and more.
Through building understanding, we hope to build a community. So like and subscribe for more chaos and comedy as we explore life behind the scenes of neurodiversity.
Well, today we would like, I would like to continue our discussion on discipline and neurodivergence. He had it over there.
Oh,
so he
usually there.
Really close. I know he pulled it where it was.
Oh, you're too loud today.
That may be the case. I might be too loud.
Cracking me up.
So how would you tell me that I'm being too loud?
How would I tell you?
Yeah.
Like you?
Me.
Or
me.
someone?
No, me. How would you tell me that I'm being too loud?
Babe, you're being too loud.
Right. If you're talking to a child that's on the spectrum and you're trying... I am not a child. I may be on the spectrum, but I am not a child. And I specifically said if you're talking to a child on the spectrum.
I know.
Love.
But also,
no, it's
not much different.
It's different. If you're talking to a child and you're trying to correct the behavior of a child who's neurodivergent, just saying, hey, stop.
That's actually effective for a lot of kids who are neurodivergent. It depends on what they're struggling with. So, like, I used to say about my oldest, he and I are the same. And so are you. We're all similar that we respond better to a direct instruction, a directive, because it's black and white. You're being too loud. Oh, okay. And we don't take it personally. We don't go, geez, okay. Oh, actually you do. But you've learned to you say that, and we've learned to just be like, whatever, he's just,
Well, I will freely admit I struggled with directness because I was so used to being vague or leaving things open-ended to try to get more than what I was asking for. Mm-hmm. Right. So when and not to come off as being mean. So I would say to my older children, I would be like, we have a lot of people in the house and we all have to share it. So if you are screaming or making a lot of noise, that from time to time that annoys or disrupts what everybody else is doing. So it might be a good idea.
Assuming that they would make the inferences appropriate, which they're not going to necessarily.
Yeah, they don't, not necessarily, but especially a neurodivergent kid because they don't, it's black or white. They don't do in between.
Some.
Because
then you have the rejection sensitivity kiddos. So like my daughter, one of your daughters for sure that we know. And like Bubba, Jack, even me, I know I used to have it. So we're a weird combination of really, really rejection sensitive dysphoria. Like,
what does that mean?
Well, if we even sense disappointment in your tone, when we are hyper aware of tone, body language, all the things, right? So if we even sense any type of negative feedback, anything, even if it's like, it's our perception. It's not even, I say if we sense it, but it's like, it's our perception. If our perception is that you are saying something negative or you're disappointed or you're mad or whatever, our perception of that is way bigger than what that person is meaning. Mm-hmm. or even like that person may not even be giving us something that's a negative or a rejection, but we're perceiving it as a rejection.
Yes.
So, it's a really hard combination for someone like me. And this is where people are talking about now having autism and ADHD co-occurring is like having two directly conflicting situations occurring within your body and your head and everything, where the solution to one is the aggravation to the other. And so it can be a constant hell depending on how bad it's affecting you.
Mm-hmm.
And so you'll see people talking about, this is hell to be, don't be acting like this is a gift or whatever. This is absolute hell to live here with ADHD, you know? And I go, well, it can be for your experience, you know, for sure. Because I understand how they are directly conflicting, because I don't get inferences most of the time. I don't generally, even though I'm hyper aware to body language and all this, you know, all these things, I also don't take it badly if you're like, hey, did you mean to be rude there?
Yeah.
And I'm like, no.
That's the difference. That is a big difference. I think that what I've learned, because I grew up with use your voice, open your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
You need to talk. You need to tell me to communicate.
Yeah, I can't know what you need unless you say something.
Right. So I have a tendency to be wordy.
Yeah.
So, and how I communicate, if that's not something, because you got a little one who's already having a hard time processing information and overstimulated and all
and
the
then
different
you start
information.
Talking too
and
much.
Then you start talking too much. It just, you know, they circuit and they shut down. And I see it a lot. The story of one of our friends was telling us about their son who was on the spectrum, and every day his teacher, at the beginning of the day, probably an hour into school, he has to be taken out of the classroom.
No, he doesn't have. He's not on the spectrum. He has ADHD.
Yeah, ADHD.
Yeah,
where he is taken out of the classroom.
Yeah, he's put out in the hall.
And put out in the hall. Well,
spends the rest of the day in the hall.
And spend the rest of the day in the hall. Well, that's, to me, knowing what I know now, it just reads overstimulation. That you're hitting him with too many different things, so he doesn't know how to process all that.
Well, he's talking.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't. So he's disrupting class, and he's, you know, talking all day, and you know, typical ADHD things. Where, you know, you just never shut up. You know, we're talking all the time, and we're so excited, and you said the thing that, by the way, and he's the sweetest kid, literally sweetest kid. Like, it broke my heart when he would say things like, yeah, well, my teacher hates me. She puts me out in the hall all day long. And I'm just like, you're like the sweetest kid. I get that you're probably talking all day long. But also there's got to be a better way, lady.
No,
you know, like, God, what a mean thing to do day after day after day. You know, just put him out in the hall. And here's my question. Is that working, lady? No, it's working for you to keep the class quiet, right? But it's not actually addressing what your situation is. So he's not actually learning how to manage what the situation is that's causing him to be put in the hall, like a typical kid would, right? Like, if you put him out in the hall, you're like, dude, you need to stop interrupting me. You know, you're sitting out in the hall today. To a typical kid, they'd come back into class the next day. They'd be like, I didn't like that. And I'm going to stop myself every time before I just start talking. Because, like, a lot of these symptoms are things that everybody does, right? So people get upset because people be like, oh, well, everybody has a little bit of ADHD. Everybody has a little bit of autism, you know? And it's like, yeah, everybody does these things at a reasonable level. The thing is, We do them at an unreasonable level.
Yeah.
You know, and we need different discipline. We need different supports. We need different help to manage in the world that wasn't designed to tolerate our behaviors.
Yeah. No, because we're our children are taught from kindergarten that a good student, looks like someone who sits in their seat
Quietly.
quietly.
Follows direction. Doesn't do anything until they're told to do it. Don't think independently, which is funny because then as you get older, in high school, middle school and high school, they start encouraging you to think independently. They've shut it down for like 6 years. 6, 7, 8 years. They've shut it down where they've said, don't think independently. We're going to tell you everything that you need to know. Just keep your mouth shut and listen. And then sometime between middle and high school, you start experiencing teachers who are like, well, what do you think? And then they're teaching critical thought and, they're teaching you how to have independent thinking. And I'm like, well, we used to.
Yeah.
We were born with independent thinking. That's where, the toddler is saying no.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to do that. Independent thinking. They're practicing it and we go, stop that. You are not allowed to have independent thought right now. Now, I understand for compliance, for a lot of reasons, safety wise and others, that's important. However, we shut it down at a level where we forget how to do it. Then we start bringing it back in middle high school, but don't do it too much.
Yeah.
Don't do too much. There's only an acceptable level of independent thought you're allowed to have. You're only allowed to have this much. And if you have too much, then it's considered arguing and disrespectful.
Yes.
And so now you're arguing and being disrespectful with the teacher. So can you imagine, like, when you look back, I just go, how confusing it is to be a teenager already. Just like that age is just confusing. And then we've had all these things shut down in us that now we're bringing back, but we're only saying to do it at this level. And for this teacher, it's okay to do it at this level. But for this teacher, it's okay. It's not okay to do it that level. So you're trying to figure all that out. Plus you're having raging hormones. So no wonder they are off the rails and they don't know right from wrong and they don't know what to do anymore, because on top of that, we don't have any structure in society anymore. So there's no, standard societal rules. You live in this society, it's like this. You live in that society, it's like that, all across our country. So, there's so little structure, but there's these somewhat ways that we continue to teach the kids that don't actually align with how our society has changed anymore. Mm-hmm. And then they get to college where that model has stayed stable forever. And that model is all the independent thought.
Yeah.
All the independent thought. In fact, professors, for the most part, they want the discourse. They invite it. They enjoy it because they know that means your brain is firing. Yeah. They know, and their brain, I feel like most professors are people who wanted to be in school. Like, you wanted to be a professional student. I wanted to be a professor because I was like, how could I be a professional student forever? Because I love going to school. And then somebody said, you just be a professor because then you're in school forever, right? Because you're teaching these things and you have access to all these other people and all this stuff, and things are constantly evolving. And so that's how you become a professional student. You get to make money and also be a student. So they are inviting the discourse. They're inviting respectful, dialogue where you're challenging me and then I have the opportunity to talk back. But we have this awful situation going on from K through 12 right now where we've said, don't think. Okay, now have some independent thought. Okay, then on top of it, we're really confusing things for the teenagers overwhelmingly, where there's no structure, it's like kind of a free for all, but then we have no respect. We have no anything,
Yeah.
because like we said, don't think for yourself. And then we said, okay, kind of think for yourself. And then we entered into cancel culture.
Yeah, we
And now
those.
our teenagers and older children are not interacting with each other in person as much anymore. So they learn how to be keyboard warriors at 10. And, they're canceling each other. They cancel anything that doesn't agree with them. And they're watching adults do it. You know what I mean? It's everywhere in society where, it's not just one generation. It's everywhere where people are canceling each other. If you don't agree with me, then just, I'm going to go over here and I'm just going to stay with people that agree with me, which is more divisive. We're not having those conversations. But then we send them to college, and then, they're kind of now shocked into a world where you may have the opportunity to have those interactions. But then college is even getting more and more online. So a kid can take, a combination of hybrid and in-person classes. They can take all hybrid classes, or like where they barely see each other. And that's good for convenience, but it's further dividing our ability to be in person and have those hard conversations and learn how to have respectful discourse. So we don't learn how to deal with each other till we get out into the workplace. It's just making it harder and harder. But
our neurodivergent kids who are in there, like, and we were just talking about the example we gave. So when the teacher says, well, how am I supposed to teach the rest of the class, the other 27 students?
Well, I feel for the teachers, because and I'm sure I'll get a lot of hate for this, but the reality is the training you go to be a teacher is nothing really meaningful too much. You get 9 months of here's a lot of laws, here's some classroom management, and you got whatever your degree is, right? So let's say you got a degree in math. Your whole degree did not teach you how to be a teacher. Your whole degree taught you math. And now you go to 9 months of some classroom management, some, legalities, and then you are put into a classroom where you're a student teacher for 3 to 6 months, depending on the state you live in. And then they go, all right, here's a class for you. Figure it out. And so, you go in to that situation. It's so uncomprehensive. It is not preparing teachers for, especially today, what you're going to deal with.
And I'm assuming you're not talking about dealing with neurodivergent
Oh
kids.
my
You're
gosh,
talking
that's just gen ed. If you do have to go to like one extra semester if you're going to be a neurodivergent. If you're going to have a special ed endorsement, you go anywhere from 1 to 2 extra terms to be a SPED teacher.
How long is the term?
It depends if you're in a quarter or semester, but let's just say this. You go an extra 6 to 12 months, right? An extra half a year to a year of school to be a SPED teacher, to get that extra endorsement, right? Where, again, in special education credentialing, they go through a whole lot of laws, special education law, disability law, because rightfully so, there's a lot of federal legalities you have to deal with in special ed. IEPs are, 50-page documents sometimes. And then there's multiple types of individualized plans. That's just the IEP. There could be a behavior intervention plan. There could be an emergency response plan. There could be, multiple types of plans that you have to then supplement the IEP with for these kiddos. So, they have to learn how to do those. They have to learn how to, what they are. There's no way. And so, and that's the other thing. You go an extra 6 to 12 months-ish to get your SPED cert. But then again, you get 3 to 6 months of that in a special education classroom, right? So great. The on-the-job training is important, but you're getting training from the teacher perspective. You're not getting training from actually working with a kid, because a SPED teacher, a SPED cert, they're generally the people who are doing more of the paperwork, legalities, that kind of thing. And it's paraeducators, it's specialists who work hands-on with the kids. So, the SPED teacher is not well equipped to go into a room, because everybody has their own idea of what they think special ed is. Most people, the only idea they have of special ed is whatever they've been exposed to. Well, think about it like this. Most kids who have behavior disorders at an extreme level, they're not in the classroom. They're not in the school setting. If they are in the school setting, they're in a classroom that is very removed from from the general population. So what you get to see in school coming up, and what you usually see in the world coming up as special ed, is medically fragile kids in wheelchairs and have tubes and stuff like that. We're used to seeing that now. We're used to seeing kids who, look like they may have Down syndrome, cerebral palsy. We're used to seeing kids who have been told have, autism, as long as their autism is not violent, right? So we see those kids where they're not making eye contact with us. They flap, they stim. They don't really engage with us verbally the way that, typical kids do. We're used to seeing kids who have mild ADHD, mild autism, where they can still function with the rest of us at a level that isn't disruptive, right? So that's what we're used to seeing. So when we think, oh, I want to be a special ed teacher, that's what we're thinking about. We have never been around, and we don't know special ed to be mental illness.
Yeah.
We don't know it to be behavior disorders.
Yeah.
We know they exist because we see them on the streets. We see them as the homeless people, the criminals. We know that there are criminals in jail. Again, we don't interact with them, right? Unless you're in the inner city and you are, living in a neighborhood that has a lot of gang activity and a lot of drug activity, then you don't see that as your part of your daily life. And even if you do see that as a part of your daily life, if you're from the inner city and you're seeing those things on a daily basis, you're still not being told that 80% of those kids have some type of behavior disorder, right? It's just, those are the drug addicts. Those are the drug runners. Those are the mentally ill people. Those are the scary people. Those are the drug people. They're the criminals, right? We don't identify them to society as having disabilities. And so we have in our mind people who don't act right.
Yeah, they're bad.
That they're criminals. They're bad. The parents need to do better. They didn't have good home training. They have all these things, right? And nobody considers, did they have a disability that made it impossible to have that home training? Did they have a disability or a mental illness that made it impossible for their parents to do better? Because we assume that it's the other way around.
Right.
You have that, you act that way because you weren't raised right. You were exposed to certain things. Sometimes that's true. You know, some of these kids have these disabilities because of the ways that they were raised and things that happened to them and trauma that happened to them. It still doesn't make it less of a disability. Put it this way. If a kid has a traumatic accident, falls off his skateboard. I know we had a kid, was just skateboarding, and he wasn't an extreme skateboarder. He was just learning how to skateboard. He was just an 8-year-old, just learning how to skateboard. All he did was flip back off his skateboard, which I've seen a million kids do all the time, and hit his head on the concrete, right? I've seen kids do that all the time. They always fall back and wonk their head, right? Well, in this case, he did it just in such a way that it gave him a traumatic brain injury.
Yeah.
And he ended up in a wheelchair and ended up with, disabilities from that. So does it make that any less of a disability just because how he got there was from a traumatic accident? No. But for some reason, our biases in society can't get past if a kid was abused or had, drug, they were a drug baby, had,
all these other things,
exposure to things that created a disability. That's a behavior or a mental illness. At that point, we can't seem to get our minds wrapped around it's still a disability.
Yeah. Even
when they're born with it, we still question the validity of it almost. No. Well, is it, or is it just that you're making excuses for it?
It is bizarre how, it's because I lived that life. I was I was on the other side of that. I thought, I grew up under it. Those kids were bad. They don't, they are just that way. But in no way did I ever see that as they're disabled.
I remember when I met you, and it was like the way you described the people in your family, and siblings, cousins, that kind of thing. And I remember going, disability in my mind, right, as you were describing things, but you were describing them as derelicts, basically. This is and this and that.
Well, and it even now, being at the place where I'm at now, it is makes me go back and look at things. I just really, really, I'm happy to be here, but it makes me just see how far off I was. And because we're speaking on discipline today, I'll say this, and I don't mean to offend anyone, but if we have a neurodivergent kid who has a documented behavioral disorder, and their behavior is their disability, when we say to them, you need to be better, I need you to control, I need you to manage it, it's the same as if you were telling a child in a wheelchair, I need you to get up and try to walk. You would never do that. But yet and still, you see it where we'll tell a kid when a behavior disability documented, I need you to be better. I need you to be good. When I need you to fix your behavior. You would never tell a blind kid, I need you to fix your eyesight.
Well, to be fair, we do, if there's some ability for the kid in the wheelchair to try to get to a walking stance again, we will expose them to as many therapies as possible to get them walking again. If there's some ability to bring their vision, any part of their vision back, we will do that, right? But it's always in a way where it's compassionate and it's supportive and it's loving, and it's like there's never a time where we're mad at them for not getting up and walking,
right? Or
the eyesight not responding to the therapy.
Because, and I was waiting for you to say it, because we're more patient.
Right.
When we can see the disability, we become patient, we give grace.
Even if it's frustrating, because of course it's frustrating if you can't hear me, but I know that we're working towards it and you don't know what I'm saying. And let's say there's some ability to improve. They've put some sort of implant, and so they're trying to tweak things. It's still frustrating.
Yeah.
It's still frustrating, but we invoke a certain type of patience in those circumstances that overrides our instinct of like, oh my God, this is so frustrating. I don't want to do this anymore. But when it's a behavior, a perfect example this morning, Jack, the dog stepped on his foot. It wasn't even a thing, but he yelled like for the longest time and the loudest time, like somebody had cut his arm off. And I was like, whoa, are you okay? And he's like, he stepped on my foot. And I'm like, So, first of all, I want to say I'm not perfect. Like I have the same reaction everybody else has in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So that happened, and I was like, okay, but dude, that was really loud and unnecessarily long. And he's like, well, sorry, but it hurt. Okay. Then literally like on the heels of that, he's got a cold. So he starts snorting grossly, loudly, totally unrelated. He's not trying to be annoying.
Mm-hmm.
He's just not paying attention to, anything else but his comfort. And I'm like, oh my God, it's too early in the morning. I've only had one cup of coffee. The hell.
But you're right.
But I was like, but I did, because here's the difference, right? A typical kid, I would have lost my shit. I'd have been like, what the fuck is wrong with you? I know I taught you better than this with your manners. Yeah. You know better than to sit there at 12 years old, snorting like that. Use a fucking tissue. I'd have been hot, right? It's not that those thoughts didn't happen. It's just they didn't come out my mouth, because I know we're dealing with a kid who is on the spectrum. And clearly this morning we're having a hard time with our perception of how loud we are and how much we're disrupting people around us. So I had to stop for a second. I said, hey, buddy. Yeah. It's like, so I think we're having a hard time this morning understanding and like remembering how the noises that we make are affecting the people around us and disrupting our environment, right? Because we're sharing this house with everybody else.
Yes.
And so I need you to take a second and remember, I know your nose is stuffed and it doesn't feel good, but here's some tissues right here. I need you to blow your nose instead. Right. So I have to say those things directly at 12, which mostly you would never have to say that to a 12-year-old anymore. That was something you were saying to a 4 or 5, 6-year-old. Both of those things. That's like 4 or 5, 6-year-old stuff.
Yes.
So you're not expecting to have that lesson again with a 12-year-old on a daily basis. But we do, because he has disabilities. Yeah. So I can't get irritated in the same way I would with a typical kid, because it's a disability. So his processing, his ability to retain this information, it's going to take so much longer. It
is, you have to, and for me, it took time. It took time to have an understanding of what I was doing. We all know that words have meaning, but when you are a neurodivergent kid and you're hearing those words, they have even more, because they're processing the information at a different level. Mm-hmm.
Well, depending on what their struggles are,
exactly.
Right? So like for him, I know we have incredibly, not just slow processing. We know that his processing is really, really slow. So that means and the way that it presents with him is he's really good at masking and pretending like he hears you and he understands. So he gives all the right responses to make you think, I know you heard me. I know you know. So that makes it even harder for him, because he presents to people like he gets it. And then, but I know from testing, I know that his processing is incredibly slow. And then I also know that his retention is incredibly impaired. So when you've got slow processing and you've got really, really low retention ability, that's going to mean it's going to take a lot of repetition, and it's going to take a lot of slowing down, way smaller chunks. And no matter how small I make it, again, back to repetition, because he's only getting some minute part of that. And I don't know how long it's sticking. It might stick for today, might stick for an hour, might stick not at all. I don't know.
I think that, and I'm not a teacher, nor do what I try to say that here's some advice to someone who manages the class, here's some classroom management. But as a step parent, what I've learned is when I want him to do something, I'll ask him, and then I become patient, right? Because I know it's not going to come. I shouldn't expect an immediate response. And then if it's not going at the level that I want it, what I do, like the example is if the part of the garage is his domain, right? And that turns into the entire garage is his domain. So if I want him to straighten up the garage, I'll ask, right? I'll say, it's almost like when you're educating an adult, where you go tell, show, do. I'll ask, hey buddy, let's try to straighten up the garages, some stuff. We're gonna have people over. We want to make sure it looks nice. He goes, okay. And this is legitimate. He's not blowing me off. He goes, okay.
Yeah. Now, no, he has every intention of doing it.
Right. Now, I know now that there may be a time, because there are times when he'll go, okay, and then get to it. And that day, and you make sure you reward that. And what I mean by reward is, acknowledge, hey, thank you for doing that. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
But on those times where he doesn't, what I'll do is I'll go in there and I'll start and I'll say to him, I'll say, hey, listen, I'm going to get in there and I'm going to start straightening up the garage. You have some things out. I don't want to mess with your stuff. So if you want to come in and show me where to put your stuff, then that way we make sure I don't accidentally throw something of yours away.
Yeah.
And then I get in there and then we do it together. And then the moment he comes in there, he says to me, hey, Kev, no worry, I got this. You go ahead. And then he gets on it. And then once he gets on it, because once he focuses on something, he's on it and he'll actually get the job done.
Yeah. And I think there's a couple keys there. When we're talking about discipline with neurodivergent kids, there's some tactics that parents can try, and anybody can try this with these kids, that are pretty successful for a lot of them, that are worth trying. One of them is body doubling, because what you're doing there is you're body doubling. So for whatever reason, it's easier for some of them, to get started on a project and stay on a project or any task if you're with me. If I have somebody with me doing it alongside me, and it doesn't even have to be that you're doing anything with me. Literally, you can just be sitting in the area talking to me, and then I will feel like doing it, right? It keeps me focused on the thing while I'm doing it. So body doubling can be incredibly successful with a lot of these kids that you're having a hard time getting them to go. I tell them to clean their room. They say, okay, they go up to their room. Then they're up there for 2 hours. They never freaking clean their room. In the school setting, what that is going to look like, teachers, is yes, more work for you. It means you see the kid, you say, hey, I need you to go put that back. You see that they never put things back. So it might mean that you give them a buddy and you explain to the buddy, hey, anytime, I ask him to do something, I'm going to need you to walk with him to go do the thing. This is going to help a couple things. First of all, it's going to give empathy and compassion to the helper kid, where they start realizing that being a body double for some people is helpful. And so it's not just every man for himself. Like, it helps us all if we all get things done, right?
Right.
So This kiddo struggles more, but he will do stuff if he has somebody doing it with him. So you find a compassionate kid in the class, you know, and you encourage them, or you get them to help this kid. It's not going to work if you put a behavior kid with a behavior kid. Okay. I'm just going to say that. Don't put the kid who already is, you know, having a problem with, you know, having a good attitude about stuff with a kid who's having a hard time getting things done. You got to find a kid like Savannah. Like Savannah was, you know, like that helper kid to her best friend, you know, who turned out to be her best friend. And she never even realized it, but they just kind of like used her as a helpful tool. And it gave Savannah so many benefits too. It's not just, it won't just benefit the kid who needs the help. It benefits the kid who's the helper kid too. Right. In Savannah's case, we didn't know she had autism until she got later, you know, older. And so part of the reason it was such a good match was because neurodivergent kids usually are attracted to other neurodivergent kids. Mm-hmm. So she naturally gravitated towards wanting to help this kiddo and being with that kiddo. So find that kiddo to help the other problematic kiddo, and then use them to help accomplish the desired behavior, right? So the body doubling thing will help get the tasks done without the teacher having to do it every day. Because if the teacher had 5 kids in class like this and had to walk each kid and body double each kid, how would she manage that? How would he manage that? They can't, but they can use, you know, some grouping skills in constructive ways. They can use some partnering skills in constructive ways to help with that kind of behavior management in the classroom. And for parents at home, yeah, it's going to mean that you're going to be the body double. It's going to mean that you felt like sitting down after work and watching TV, or you felt like, you know, just cooking and, you know, why can't your kid get their room cleaned up or whatever, but they can't. So parents going to have to divide and conquer. If you're a single parent, you don't have time for that. You don't have the ability, you know, that's legitimate, you know, or you've got multiple children, you know, and so you're like, yeah, literally don't have time to do that. That sounds like a luxury. Again, use the same tactic in the classroom. Find one of the siblings that is more empathetic, that is more compassionate to that kiddo's struggles. Have a talk with them. Be like, hey, you know, your brother has some things going on. I'm going to need your help with this because I've got to cook dinner. So if we want to eat tonight, I got to cook dinner. Yeah. And your brother needs to clean up his room. And he doesn't clean up his room well unless he has somebody in there with him. I'm not saying you have to do it for him. In fact, I don't want you to do everything, right? I'm not asking you to clean his room up for him. What I'm asking you to do is go in and make it fun with him. Right. Make it enjoyable. Make it not feel bad. Just be with him. Spend time with him. Please help me this way. When the kids get older, you can always switch with them. If they start complaining, like, I don't want to do that. Okay, well, you have a choice. You know, because I get it. Having the kids that I had to use to help manage the other one's behavior, I get that they go through periods of time where they get grumpy and resentful because why do I always have to be the bigger person or do more or whatever? Then you give them choices. Because first of all, we're a family unit here. It's not every man for himself. So we help our fellow person. And if we saw that somebody needed help with something, then we would help them. So, you know, you're going to help them. But I get that you're tired of doing it this way. So here's an option. Right. You can cook dinner. Dinner has to get done. This has to get done. This has to get done. Which thing would you like to do? Yeah. You know, when they're 7, they can't do that. Mm-hmm. But maybe when they're, 15 and they're starting to get grumpy about being the helper. Okay, do you want to cook dinner? And I'll go be the helper. Right. So I think to like help manage the behaviors, it's not just about discipline, but it's about finding strategies that work to get the same goal accomplished. Because they're not cleaning their room to be defiant. They're not cleaning their room because they just literally can't.
Right. It's not processed in the same way.
Yeah. Dude, what's up?
Can you send me like $60 so I can get a new Xbox controller?
No, that is not worth interrupting for, please.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. I need you to leave the room and close the door now, and then we can talk about that after, okay?
Send me $60.
No, I'm not going to send you $60 right now. That's something we'll talk about after. Well, see, that's like in real life.
Mm-hmm.
Here it is. Don't call me, don't interrupt me because we're filming. It's an hour. You'll be okay. Okay. And then he walks in. And you'd think, like a typical kid would know, like that I'm going to eviscerate you for interrupting after I told you not to interrupt. And if he was typical, I would. But because I'm like, and so we lost that battle. Here he is, gonna have to address it. And then, you would think some of my older kids who weren't impacted the way he was, the 3 B's. Are you burning, bleeding, or broken?
Mm-hmm.
If I've told you not to interrupt me, these are the only 3 reasons you can interrupt me. It worked so well. He was raised the same thing. Doesn't work. It's an Xbox controller. I need $60 for an Xbox controller. It's so important right now that I had to come in and interrupt. And then, when I said, dude, it's another, I know. But it's like the impulse control is so strong that he can't get out of the loop until he does the thing. So am I supposed to just like beat it out of him? I mean,
no, it doesn't work. That's not because that's not going to get you to the point that you're looking for.
No,
because he doesn't process the information that way. No. So the only way to get him through it is to walk him through that, because he's which is the disability he have. He is still a extremely bright young person.
Yeah, his IQ is not impaired.
Right. So once you get him on the path and he sees it, then he goes, "Oh yeah, that wasn't a good idea." But you got to get him there, and corporal punishment.
He needs to know what to do. So now I'm like, okay, note to self: I'm gonna have to have a talk with him before, these times, and say, if you have a question and have a need, this is who you can go to.
Yes.
Just saying, don't interrupt me for an hour, is not going to work.
Right.
I see that now because he's done this a couple times. So I'm like, okay, so now I need to figure out how I get what I need, which is don't interrupt me for an hour. And he's going to be able to have his needs met.
Yeah.
If he was a typical kid, I wouldn't have to think that hard on this. It would be a simple matter of, you're not getting the Xbox controller now because you interrupted me. And I told you not to. And that's disrespectful. At 12 years old, that would be completely reasonable with a typically functioning kiddo to have that be the consequence.
Yes.
For him, that's not going to teach him not to do it again. He will do it again and again and again, because I'm not addressing the real problem. The real problem is he's having an absolute compulsion and impulse control issue that is a behavior disorder.
Yes.
He is going to loop on that if he doesn't have a solution. He can't come up with a solution because of other disabilities. So he doesn't have the ability to sit there outside the door and go, I shouldn't interrupt, but what are my options? How could I solve this problem otherwise?
Right.
I have to give him ways to solve his problems before the problem occurs, so then he can refer to those.
Right.
And then when he doesn't invoke those, that's when I get angry. And he knows that, like, I'm like, I gave you 3 options. Unless you can give me a good reason why you couldn't invoke one of those 3, or why you tried to invoke all 3 and all 3 failed, which has happened, where
right.
I've gone, excuse me, why are you calling me? Right? I'll be like gone. And he's got you. And I've told him, listen, I'm gone. I can't help you. I'm not the parent in charge. Don't call me with your issues. You've got Kevin. You've got Miss Jocelyn. You've got Miss Alice. So, you know, and worst case, you got your brother. It's not very helpful, but try, right?
Right.
And if you've gone through all those 4, you know, then you can call me, right? So then when he calls me, he better be telling me why all 4 of those things didn't work. So he has called and I'm like, why are you calling me? And he knows. I already tried to call Kevin and he didn't answer, and Miss Jocelyn's not here, and it's not a day where Miss Alice is here, and I don't know where Baba is. Yeah. And then I'm like, okay, what do you need? That's fair.
Yes. Yeah,
you know, but he's showing me, and he knows to show me how he tried to solve the problem with the tools I gave him.
Right.
And so then it's not fair for me to get mad at him because he tried the tools I gave him.
No, I think that's important too. Just for people out there who have, because dealing with the kids with the invisible disabilities can be very trying. But I think Jennifer just said something that was really, really, it means something to me. And it helps me when I'm dealing with him. When he does something that aggravates or annoys me, I remind myself that that's his disability, and I cannot get mad at him because for having a disability.
Right.
He has no control over that. It would be the same as me if he couldn't see and me being mad because he couldn't see me.
But I think that it's fair to honor our own feelings.
Mm-hmm.
I think we just have to reframe it.
Yes.
I'm not going to get mad at you for not getting this, right? But I'm allowed to be really frustrated.
Oh, absolutely.
That this is hard. I'm allowed to be irritated within myself that this is such a burden to have to deal with all the time. Yeah. I'm exhausted. I'm tapped out. I don't have the support I need. Whatever it is, you have to give yourself permission. It's okay. I think it's, you know, it's, you're setting yourself up for disaster to just be like, and so they have a disability, so I just have to be okay with it. You have to react to them a certain way because they have a disability, yes. But that doesn't mean if they hit you that it doesn't hurt.
Right.
That doesn't mean that your soul didn't break because they called you every name under the sun. It's okay to say, you know, to honor your feelings about how that hurts you and whatever. It's just that you don't get to discipline them the same way. You don't get to get mad at them for having the disability like you get to get mad at a neurotypical kid who calls you every name under the sun.
Right.
They know better.
You can get upset at the action and be frustrated with the action. Yeah. But I just think that
you can't take it out on them.
You can't take it out on them because I have this mantra that it helps me when I'm dealing with all this, and I go, your thoughts become your words become your actions become your behavior, and your behavior becomes your character. Yeah. And I, as a parent, want to show this young man good character because I want him to mirror me and have good character. So when I get frustrated with that, I try to
You're also mirroring to him.
You're mirroring to
him.
You're
showing him frustration.
Frustration.
Yeah, it's really hard. Yeah. Not gonna lie. Yes. It's really hard because you are struggling with your own feelings in that moment.
Yes.
We had an escalation a couple weeks ago where in the moment, a lot had happened to me that disrupted my entire nervous system. And yet I had to override because I had a choice as he was coming out of it, whether I mirrored for him being angry at him and being, you know, and I had to say to myself, I can deal with my feelings later.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, I have to show him grace. I have to show him love and forgiveness right now when I don't feel like it. Because he is already feeling ashamed, embarrassed, and hateful of himself. What would me getting angry at him or showing him anything different than love and grace do to help that? Nothing. It would make it worse. In fact, even though I was still struggling with my own feelings and he was outside fixing what he had done, he was saying horrible things to himself about, what a terrible person he is, how he wishes he was never born, how he wishes he was never here. And, he was saying horrible things. And I'm like still recovering. My nervous system is still in shambles. And I had to override that and go outside and say, I need you to stop saying bad things about my son to my son. Because, baby, the words you say, your body will interpret. Your body will internalize. And I need you to not say those things to yourself because it's going to make your body feel even worse. You already feel bad about what happened. And your body needs you to show it forgiveness and grace right now. Just like I'm showing you forgiveness and grace right now, I need you to do that for yourself. It doesn't mean that these screens aren't broken. It doesn't mean that these things didn't happen. But when you are fixing them, I need you to talk nicely to yourself. I need you to talk kindly to yourself and say nice things, loving things to yourself, just like I'm saying to you. And so we have to mirror it.
Yeah.
Times where we don't want to, but you know what? That's the difference between being a grown-up and being a child.
Yeah.
That's the transition into parenthood. That if you don't ever have kids, you may not ever have to learn how to do. Because you have to put your feelings right now aside to model the right behavior.
Right.
And especially for these kids, modeling is everything. Like they are internalizing everything that they see us do.
Absolutely.
So,
But it's part of, I will say this to anybody, it's part of being a parent.
That part, yeah.
Yes, you have to. It's not, nobody said, if anyone told you that being a parent was, it's easy. You just, you hit A and then B and then you get C. No, that's not how this works. And let me ask you this. Would you say it's a fair statement to say that, like with education, you have to meet each neurodivergent child at their level in communication when it comes to discipline?
Absolutely. I mean, you know what? Everything shifted with Jack. Jack was by far the most challenging of all my kids. And I had years of experience under my belt at that point. I had every tool in the book at my disposal. And he has been the most challenging, right? So I found that to be ironic because I was like, how is this the hardest when I've got everything, every tool. I've got every resource. I've got every experience. I've got everything. And yet here we are still struggling. The biggest shift I had in how I was able to deal with him came when I said to myself, lean into it. Lean into the discomfort right now. Stop fighting it. Just lean into it. Lean into his anger. When he gets angry, get closer.
Yeah.
When he gets, because that's not your instinct.
Yeah.
He's angry, go away.
Yep.
And I'm not meaning physically, because sometimes I need to give him space, physical space. But I had to lean in psychologically. I had to, instead of pushing him away, I had to lean in. I hear you saying really, really angry things right now, I want you to know I love you.
Mm-hmm.
I hear that you're very angry. I hear you. And Jack, nothing you say is going to make me stop loving you.
No,
Nothing. I love you so much right now. And I don't want, like, or one of the biggest, most helpful things that shocked me was he starts getting nasty in his words. And I go, Jack, I haven't been mean, disrespectful, or angry at you. Why are you talking to me like this? This really hurts my feelings. Just that.
Yeah.
Like, and that's not your instinct. Okay. Let's all be honest. It's not our instinct when somebody starts saying horrible things to you to go, hey, buddy, how come you're being mean to me? Like, that's not your instinct is to fight back. Your instinct is to be like, hey, don't talk to me like that.
Right. But he wants to know, because he doesn't. That's the other thing with neurodivergent children. When we talk about they don't understand cues, social cues.
Yeah.
They don't. He doesn't have. There's a lot of times when he'll say and do things not understanding that what it's going to cause the other person.
Right. So if you can say how this is hurting my feelings right now, rather than don't do that, because don't do that means absolutely nothing to them.
Yeah.
At least to him, you know, and a lot of kids like him. Don't do that. You can't do that. Oh, you just up the ante. Now I'm like, it's like you just told me to do it more. Yeah. Almost, you know, saying that almost brings you down the opposite road that you wanted to go down. So taking a more, an approach where you're labeling how what they're doing is making you feel. Now, there are kids who are neurodivergent who have behavior and mental illnesses that when you label how you feel, they do it more.
No, they key in on that. They go,
yeah,
that's your button.
That's your button. I'm going to do that. So you have to know the kid you're dealing with.
Yeah.
I know that for Jack, that is not how that makes him react. But a lot of the kids I had dealt with before, that was not the direction I wanted to go, because they would be like, ha, got you. Now I'm going to go for that all the time. Yeah. And so I didn't show that weakness. I didn't show that to them. I didn't allow them to know that they had pushed a button. And that was my superpower with them, because they couldn't get a reaction out of me. So there are kids like that where you're just like, hey, dude, we're not going to do that today. Nope, we're not going to say that today. Yeah. So there are those kids. Right. But there are also the kids like Jack where the minute you lean in and you go, hey, buddy, do you need a hug? Yeah. It's like it breaks everything for them. I do it with them all the time. I go, hey, listen, I want to be able to do things for you. Right. But you're making me feel like I shouldn't, because you're hurting my feelings.
I hurt my feelings and I didn't like that.
Yeah.
And he immediately responds to that.
Yeah.
And we were able to move over. But I catch myself like slipping into the old patterns. And what I found successful is that if I stop myself and go, you know, that made me angry, so I went there and I said this, that was wrong for me to do.
They have a lot of respect for that
when
too.
I speak with you, I should have said this. And I understand that if I had said this, you would have not done what you did to me. Right. So I'm going to take, that was my fault and I apologize. Moving forward, let's not do that.
Right.
And he absolutely responds to that.
Yeah. No, 100%. I mean, he had put his hands on me last time, and I had no choice but to whack him to get him off of me because he was coming for me. And I hate that. I absolutely hate that. So that's more what broke me than probably anything else, is if I have to put my hands on him. And, you know, he was coming at me, so I had to put my hands on him. And, you know, afterwards, he was like, Mommy, I'm so sorry that I threw that ball at you. He threw a freaking billiard ball at the back of my head. Didn't get me, but, you know, could have. And, you know, was coming at me with golf clubs and trying to break windows. And before I was able to barricade myself, you know, he had put his hands on me, and he was like, Mom, I'm so sorry for hurting you. Do you have any marks? He starts like checking my body, you know, like, did I leave any marks? I'm so sorry. And I said, buddy, I get it. And also, I'm so sorry that I slapped you.
Yeah.
And he was just like, it was almost like he hated that I know. It was almost like he hated that I apologized because he was just like, no, I deserved that. And I was like, yeah, but no.
Yeah. I will say that it's also, as the co-parent, is important that I say this. When dealing with a neurodivergent kid and you're dealing with discipline, that should only occur in the moment. Unlike with typical kids, where when your father gets home,
Oh gosh,
he's going to do this. My rule is, if I wasn't there,
mm-hmm.
no matter what happened, whether I agree with it or not, whatever
Mm-hmm.
decision that you made, as far as discipline or communication with him and how you guys work through the issue, that's how you work through the issue. And what I cannot do and should not do is come in on the back end and be like, all right, now that I'm here, let me tell you this. During that escalation, I was away.
Mm-hmm.
And I made sure that, because Thomas and I your oldest were together. Yeah. And we came back, I made sure that I discussed with him that when we get back in the house, that this is a new day.
Yep.
That whatever happened with us not being there, that your mom handled it.
Right.
And we let how she handled it stand.
Well, because it was important, right? I was not going to disrupt anybody else's day because of what was happening. And I knew that this, there wasn't anything that anybody could do. He had crossed over into a place where he blacks out.
Yeah.
And when that happens, there is only one thing to do, and that's call the police. And it's scary. The bigger he gets, the older he gets, because I'm fully aware that you never know what police officers you're going to get.
Mm-hmm.
You never know if they're going to be, Kevin's, or if they're going to be, everything that's wrong with police departments.
Yes.
So you're taking that risk when they come in. I know some things to say and do when I call in and when they come to the door to help protect us from a bad situation and protect them too as police officers. Because I understand what they're coming into is considered a domestic violence situation, which is considered one of the most dangerous calls you guys can go on. Yes. They come in with a certain mindset of, we're going into a very dangerous situation and we're going to control the environment, period, whatever that takes.
Yes.
And I've got a out of control kid. As he gets older, it's going to be an out of control, seeming to be adult.
Yes.
And so their response is going to be more physical the bigger he gets.
Yes.
So I know that, but I also know some things that I can do to help us all navigate the situation better, which it starts with the call. Hi, I have a child who has autism, who's having a mental health crisis right now. He's, destroying the house and he's coming after me physically, but it's a mental health crisis. So if you're immediately telling the dispatcher that, dispatchers get a little annoyed sometimes because you're leading in with with conditions instead of what the emergency is.
Yes.
But they have to stay on the phone with you, so they're not going to hang up on you. So lead in with, I have a child who has autism who is having a mental health crisis right now. Or you can just say, I have a child who's having a mental health crisis right now. And what does that look like? And blah, blah, blah. And then they send the officers out. Officers come. I meet them at the door. He has autism. He's having a mental health crisis right now. Okay, what does that look like? Usually nowadays, what my experience is, most of the time, is some of the officers who come are there for the muscle and some who come are there for the
communication.
Figure it out.
Yeah.
So in this case, I had 4 officers show up. at 2 different doors. And that was nerve-wracking because I was like, shit, if one of them gets a hold of him and he, you know, goes AWOL,
Yeah.
we're going to have a problem. But also, there's only so much I can do. And he is being absolutely dangerous and a disruption to the entire neighborhood, and not only terrorizing me. And there's only one way to get him under control at that point. And sometimes it's physical restraint.
Yeah.
And I'm not big enough anymore. He can overpower me. So I have to barricade myself. But the key being, there wasn't anything that you or Thomas or anybody in the family. In Hawaii, we have pseudo family in the neighborhood. And they were all there. And they knew what was going on. And they were texting me. They were calling. Can I do anything? Do you want us to tackle him? Do you want...
Yeah.
What can we do? Should we stay back? Should we come in? They're all very well aware. They're so helpful. They're so loving. I'm so thankful for them. And it was hard for them, even for me to say, yeah, can you let the gate know that police has been called and they need to be let in? And they were like, are you sure? Is that what we really need to do? Yeah, I'm really sure. Yeah. And no, I didn't want to make that call either. And then even when the police came, and it's, you know, so for all the people who want to hate on me about, you know, or think about calling CPS because I whacked my disabled child, you know, rest assured, I told the police officers there exactly what had happened. And in fact, the female who was the one who was in charge of communication and, you know, handling me apparently, there were 3 men outside talking to him, and there was a female in talking to me. And, you know, she said, you know, if he puts his hands on you, you have every right to fight back. And I said, well, I did. I beat his ass. I mean, I didn't beat his ass.
Yeah.
I mean, bad choice of words. And she said, no. She said, Mom, there's no law against that here in Hawaii. You know, so even if you had, there's nothing, because he's your child. He's 12. And if he puts his hands on you like that, you know, or even not, you can still. And I was like, well, I'm not going to, but he had put his hands on me and I had to slap him to get him off of me. So I did do that.
Yeah.
And she was just like, I know she was borderline, like kind of like laughing because I was telling on myself and I was afraid that like I was going to get like CPS investigation and everything. But, you know, she was like, no, you can beat him. I'm like, I'm not going to beat him.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know, to alleviate, you know, the concerns.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I think it's because it's all part of steps. And just like you communicated with them, and thank you so much for saying that. I think it's super important that you give as much information to the dispatch about what you're dealing with. Because in the past, too many times, we've not given enough information, and we've sent the police in without having a full scale of what they were seeing.
Well, because usually you call, you go, yeah, my son is trying to break the windows down and he's coming after me and I'm scared. Okay, well, if it was a typical kid doing that, yeah, we've got a problem.
Yeah.
But it's not.
Yeah.
So people need to know.
Yeah. No, I thought, and like we could spend probably the next couple of hours talking about that. I think we'll, next time we will definitely talk a little more, because I think that talking about what to do in that situation, there's some other parts, but I want to leave it with the importance of that was a very traumatic incident.
Yeah.
But it was super important that it stayed in that time. Mm-hmm. That I not come in and other family members not come in and try to create more or let me come in and give my piece of it. No, that once it was done, that in that moment, anything that can be associated with discipline finished.
It finished. And he was afraid of what because everybody in our party had seen what was the starting of it. And then they all went to the beach. And he was really afraid of everybody's reaction. Yeah. And everybody gave him love. Yeah. And so that's the thing. You have to let the person who's dealing with it deal with it. And then your job, if you're not the one dealing with it, is we're moving on.
Yeah.
We're moving on. So
It's the
I think,
most difficult thing is to move on, but you have to, every day is a new day. Anyway, but we'll talk more about that next time. Thank you guys for listening. Please comment, like, and share. And if you want to reach out to us, please connect with us on social media. Thank you for joining us today.
bye.
Bye.